Hi all, welcome to this lecture. In this, we are going to understand function expression. In our previous lecture, we have completely understood about function declaration. So in similar way, in JavaScript, we are having different ways of writing function. Whatever we have learned in our previous lecture, same functions we will be converting as function expression. Okay, this is how we created function declaration. We gave function keyword, function name. Inside that, whatever function body we want, we can pass and directly we are calling this function. So this is called as function declaration. I will copy and here I am just going to paste. Above I will write the comment. I will write as function declaration. As I mentioned, in JavaScript, we are having different ways of writing the function, but they all will be working in similar way. Whatever type you are writing or whatever kind you are writing, you are going to get same result. Functions are nothing but it is a piece of code that can be reused over and over again. So how in variable, let me just come here. I will write one variable apple, and inside this we can store any data. Similar way, in functions we will be storing block of code, and if I just want to repeat that code again, I can directly call that function. And in our last lecture we have already seen we can call it as calling function, running function or invoking function, but mostly I would say calling a function whenever I want to execute that function. Now same function, let us just convert into function expression. I will write the comment and here I am just going to write function expression. Same function, I am just going to paste it here. Now what we have to do, we just have to remove this function name. Parenthesis will be as it is. Now this entire function is returning value. So what I have to do, I'm just going to assign it to variable. Now what happens, for function expression, we will not be giving any function name. Here we have function name, but here we are not giving any function name. Directly we have this function, open parenthesis and close parenthesis, and directly we are just writing our function body. And this entire function, we are assigning it to one variable. Now what happens, this is called as anonymous function. Function which is not having any name, it is called as anonymous function. And design of writing this function, it is called as function expression. Now how do we call this function? What you have to do, for whatever variable you have assigned this function, now this variable will be treated as function. Now here for better understanding, I will write here greeting1 because here I have already used greetings. I will save this. Now you can see 2 times I got this result. First for this call and second for this call. Do not get confused with function expression. You are just writing in same way. Only thing is you are removing function name, and this entire function you are just assigning it to one variable. Now this variable will be treated as function. Now to execute or to call this function, we will be writing this variable, and how we called using parenthesis, we are just passing here parenthesis. Now this function will be executed. Whatever I am having inside this function, that I am going to get my result. Here for better understanding, I will copy this and I will just write here. Again copy, and here I am just going to write. Save this. You can see from function declaration I got this result, and from function expression I got this result. So this is a very simple example. If you want to repeat this code multiple times in your program, create this function and call multiple times wherever this code is required. Now why we are using functions? Just to follow the principle, don't repeat yourself. That is right. If you are using same code multiple times, then entire code you can wrap inside function, and whenever it is required, you can simply call that function without writing the entire code again. Now let us see how to pass parameters. we will be taking the same example, how we created this one ice cream example. I will paste it here. This is our function declaration, function keyword. Inside that I have passed two parameters, and here I'm just passing the string. Directly I can just write here console log, but functions are always returning value. So what we have to do, I'm just assigning it to one variable and I'm just returning this ice. If you want more detailed explanation of this entire function, you can watch previous lecture, because in that we have completely understood why we are passing this return and why we are storing inside one separate variable. Now this function declaration, let us convert into function expression. Same again, I am going to copy, paste it here. I have to remove this. And after this function, inside this parenthesis, how we have passed here, similar way, we are just going to pass our parameters. Now this entire function, I just have to assign it to one variable. I will give ice cream machine 1. Now inside this, I am just returning a string, and this string, I am just assigning it to this variable. Now here, let me just write your ice creams. I will just write here function expression only to understand. And this function is returning this ice string. Now to call this function, we will be using this variable name, and this variable will be treated as function. Similar way, call this function now, we have to write this variable. Inside this, we have to pass, I will write chocolate and I will be writing apple. I will just wrap inside single quotes. Now if you see here, I will not be getting any result. For this also I am not getting any result, and for this also I am not getting any result. But if you see here, this function I have not called here. That is the reason I am not getting result. But this function I called, but still I am not getting the result. So is there any issue with our function? The answer is no. Why? Because this function is returning the value. So in any programming language, to store the values or to assign the values, we need one variable. But previous function was not returning anything, so directly we call the function. But now this function is returning the value. So what I have to do? After calling this function, it has returned me this I string. So this value I have to store inside one variable. So what I will do? I will create one variable. I will give here ice1 is equal to, now whatever value I got from this function, that value will be stored inside this variable. Now if I just write here ice1, save this, now I am going to get the result. FE, you can see function expression. This entire string I got as my result. So this is how we will be writing function declaration and function expression. The way they will be working is completely same. We will be getting the same result. If anybody asks you, the value of function declaration and function expression will be returning the same value or not? The answer is very simple. It is going to return the same value. If you have used the same function, inside that, if you are using the same body, then you are going to get the same result. There will not be having any effect in the result. You will get exact same result for both the functions. Then what is the difference between them? If both functions are working in same way, then what is the difference between this function? There is only a minor difference between both of this function. This is our function declaration. After declaring this function, I have called this function. But in function declaration, before declaration of this function, I can call this function and I am going to get the result. Let me just comment entire thing just to show you the result. You can see 2 times I got the result. Welcome to my channel. This is function declaration. And second time also I got the result. Before declaring the function, I can call function declaration. I will not be having any error. But the same will not go with function expression. Now this is my function expression. Now if I call here before declaring this, save, I will be getting this error. Cannot access greeting 1 before initialization. So this is the minor difference between both of this function. Function declaration can be called before initialization or before declaration, but function expression cannot be called before its initialization. Now maybe most of you will be having question for your own functions, what type of design you have to use in your projects, like what kind of function you have to use. So most of the time it would be personal preference. Most of the developers will be using different patterns and not everybody will be preferring the correct one. It should be of personal preference. But in my larger JavaScript projects, I always prefer to use function expression because using function expression, I can make sure my function is declared, my function is initialized, only then I am calling this function. It is just going to give me proper structure. But for my simple project, I always go with function declaration. So you can use both of the function, but it should be of personal preference and what is the requirement of your project. So if you are just taking function declaration, do not forget function expression because both are having their own spaces in JavaScript and both can be used anytime. So there is no right and wrong answer for this question. You can use any one of the format and you can start with your projects. This is all about function declaration and function expression.